Welcome. We're live. Welcome to the Midday Show. Good afternoon, and welcome to Wednesday. Wednesday, what is it? Wednesday the 8th. Is it the 8th? Wednesday the 8th of October already. I'm not quite sure where this year's going, but it is very good to have you. Welcome, and if you did see my lips moving without me talking, then it's not a fault. That's my producer in the background. I'll just ask her to do a favour for me. A very good afternoon. We got a good show for you today. We have possibly two guests. In fact, we do have two guests. So I'm going to chat to the lovely Danielle Jota Hall for the first half an hour. Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really, really good, thank you. My girlfriend actually became aware of you and forwarded me your details and said she'd be really good for the Midday Show. And I read it and I thought, yes, she absolutely would. So tell us a little bit about you. Welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself, Danielle.
Well, I'm a blogger first and foremost, really, of a page called PDA Parenting. I'm a single parent to 3 autistic children. Mm-hmm. And I'm also an author of books around that particular topic, which maybe I'll come into later. But since having children, I've also realised that I'm autistic and ADHD myself, because the penny drops. You start to realise when you've got more than one child, yes, that maybe. And I kind of bring to what I write really about a lot about mental health, but really around supporting families, really, because I'm kind of on a mission to prevent children from being misunderstood, because we have quite a bad backstory of, of a horrific time through services and misunderstandings and falsely being, accused of harming children when I'm just a parent asking for support. So that's kind of a nutshell of who I am and what I bring to this, really.
I think you speak for a lot of people. Certainly, there seems to be a massive gap, I suppose, in what's needed in today's society, and it seems that we're almost using tools from the 80s and enforcing them in an even more primitive way, because at some, like you said, parents can be accused of things they're not doing. Of course, it is important to have safeguarding in place, because there are times, unfortunately, where the parent is the problem. Having said that, there's an awful lot of times when the parent is not the problem, and that rule absolutely falls flat on its face and just creates problems for the people that need help the most. Tell us, in my opinion, have I got that right?
Yeah, 100%. You've got that right. In fact, actually, I teamed up with another autistic writer as well, and we put in a bit of a body evidence of around, particularly around the PDA profile, which is a profile within the autism spectrum. So, like that was who we were targeting as parents. But we had like over 1,000 respondents within 24 hours. We had to shut down the research and just sort of cap it at just what was sort of over 1,000, where we could just analyze like the data before it gets too much. And really, we came out with the fact that parents were often blamed for misunderstanding, and really the cases like we're describing, like those real cases of safeguarding, okay, yeah, they happen, but predominantly a lot of parents like us are kind of getting blamed. And in fact, some of the statistics were like really shocking. So I know for a fact that I'm kind of the first person to be targeted, because one, I was a single parent. So that was often, if you were more like, from our data, it was like if you were a single parent, or if you were autistic or ADHD yourself, instantly you were put into a place of being blamed before being understood or before appropriate services being offered. There was, is
there still this belief operating that single parents are just a bit feckless and it's their own? Really?
Yeah, massively. But also the fact that our communication style might be different if you're neurodivergent. So, but you're going to look at the parents of these children, and most of the time the parents are neurodivergent themselves, whether that's undiagnosed or not. So it's our communication style that, could be then picked upon.
For the benefit of those tuned in, PDA, what does that stand for?
it stands for pathological demand avoidance. People will say, what does that really mean? And the profile is it's considered a behaviour profile that fits within the autism spectrum. So you'd have to meet the criteria to actually get an autism diagnosis. But the added part on this, so you would have all the criteria that would make you autistic in terms of social communication and all of those kind of differences. But what makes this different is that it's an anxiety-based need to be in control. And what it does is it affects your ability to do everyday tasks. So it's easy for, I'm talking about a child now, but it's the same for an adult. But like for a child, you could say, well, okay, then a child will choose not to do something that they don't want to do. But where this becomes pathological is it's an everyday demand we should be able to do but can't and want to do. For instance, going to the toilet, or it could be going to the park, or doing things that you want to do even. Or
so let me understand this, Danielle. The child wants to do it, but the anxiety, be it go to school, be it go to the park or whatever, just, fairly for people that haven't got this problem, everyday normal things.
Yes.
But the anxiety rises up and magnifies, and they can't do the everyday things they want to do.
Yes. And although that's one aspect to it, that's the main defining feature, but there actually are other parts of the profile that make it misleading. So, for instance, it could be around surface communication. So quite often, a lot of people with the PDA profile will come across as if they're really competent on a surface level with communication, but underneath they'll lack the understanding of the new social nuances of things and stuff like that. So there are differences in
that's interesting. I mean, are these differences well enough understood in society yet, in your opinion?
No.
I think I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
No. So instantly, that's where parenting of that becomes the first point of call, because for instance, it will look like, why can't you put more consequences in? Why don't you put more boundaries in? But what we're doing is if
they're scared already.
Yeah. So you're just punishing what is already a problem underneath. So it's just meeting. It's like doing red flag to a ball, really. You're just really battling like this.
Well, you can't, in any walk of life, neurodiverse or not, you cannot. Yeah. You can't punish your way to healing. You just can't. You just can't. It's like trying to bomb for peace. You can't do it.
And you touched upon, we're still set in old-fashioned ways, and that's the problem, really. That is probably the biggest problem we'll always find, not just as a parenting side or whether it's education. It becomes it's pushing down outdated views on what this actually is and what's the right support to put into place.
When it needs new thinking, and it needs fresh new thinking, which is why it's a pleasure to talk to you today. And for the benefit of anyone watching the replay of this, I hope it's sweet relief to hear this. I mean, I suppose there is a body of voice growing for this kind of thing, and it will, 100 years time, it'll be standard, and then people will look back and go, oh my goodness me, we didn't understand neurodiversity, but you being here on the leading edge of it, if you like, and there's never a crowd on the leading edge, is there?
No.
What was it like discovering that you were neurodiverse and parenting, and did you say homeschooling 3?
Yeah, I home educated. Well, not officially. It was because each one had already fallen out of school. The eldest one had been excluded, and basically we came to a point where all 3 children at different ages were met with, we didn't have any schools available locally, so we had something else called education other than at school. So that's where, But
what part of the country are you in?
Sorry, where am I?
Yeah,
UK. Yeah, so just outside London. Yeah, so
okay.
It's that was, I forgot the rest. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, that's very touching, isn't it? I just forgot the question, and then it was actually about about being that. When I found out about being autistic and ADHD, I felt like an imposter, to be honest, because I'm feeling like, well, I got through school. I didn't really have these issues. It's never as bad as what they were, but I could start to see some of the feelings. And I was always, when I worked in education myself, I was always drawn to the students that were very similar to my own children, because they were different and needed more needs. So it was kind of almost like a sign, really.
I suppose if you spot it, you've got it, they say.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
And you start to look around your friend groups and your family, and you start to see it all kind of going out. yeah, I don't know. I just felt it was a bit of a relief because it made a lot of sense. I know as a child, I was quite, I'd always be picking a fight with people because I'd always be like, like a dog. I was like a dog to a bone. I'd always be arguing with people, like to have the right word. And, I didn't suffer fools lightly, as my nan used to say. And you know what I mean? And I'd always be bringing trouble back to the door, and it'd always be me. Why is it always you getting in? Why can't you just walk away? And when I got to secondary school, I just learned to completely mask and hold myself in. And when I had the assessment, the guy was like, it feels like it's never been safe to be you. And that's like quite a telling thing, isn't it? If you've had to hold back your personality for fear of not being accepted, it's nice
because
to
the thing, we all human beings want to feel accepted, don't they? And if someone's different in any way, plus kids can be cruel, as we know. I read Richard Osman, is it Thursday Murder Club? Richard Osman, the comedian, he's on Point this as well. And he said he was tall, and and still to this day he gets digs about being tall. You know what I mean? So so you can pick on anything: tall, short, wrong color hair. You know what I mean?
We always want to fit in as a need.
Well, that's the thing. But masking eventually won't work, and it will come out in one of two ways: either sort of outwards in unwanted to other people's behaviors, or you'll turn it inwards, and then one day it'll absolutely explode because you've shoved so much down, and it's kind of got to go somewhere.
It's very true.
How are you doing now with it all?
Fine, actually, things are moving in the right direction at last. I'm going to touch wood. That's more on a case of parenting side, because after a long battle of many years and many tribunals, I now have something alternative provision for each of my children, and which means a mixture of stuff. So hence the reason I wouldn't have even been able to do this interview. Like I wasn't able to do things. So it's feeling like, you're getting back on track, really. And the more you move away from fighting and trying to get through things, it's such a relief to actually be working around people now that follow my lead or, collaborate. Whereas before, the whole of my parenting has been pushing back, proving I'm not. The word is fabricating an induced illness, which is the fee as the initials, and it's what used to be called Munchausen by proxy. And I've faced that multiple times. I've now got like letters from our local services apologising for their misconduct and everything, but it doesn't, it doesn't take away the past, but I have to just keep working and moving forward, because if I get too angry and focus on the past, I'm not in the present with my children. So I've got to just let things go.
But it must be so nice to at least be validated. And it was decent of them to apologize and say, look, we got it wrong. And conversations like this, and every conversation you have, and I hope lots of people will watch this on replay and think, oh, thank goodness, So I'm going to ask you about resources in just a moment. Is there a situation, I think, the government have brought in this new bill or something about children's education? I'm not too familiar with it, but I think there is a part of it where maybe they're thinking people are feckless again, where they can actually force kids to go to school, and the parent could be prosecuted if they don't. Now I could imagine in a few cases, again, that might be reasonable if they are genuinely feckless, but for the 99% that aren't and actually need help and support, I mean, I think that's draconian. I think that's unfair. What's your thoughts about it?
Oh, it would just be horrendous for a lot of families, because really you're just targeting the,
most vulnerable.
The vulnerable. And, without a level of education or the right support, like I'm quite fortunate that I had a good support network around me. I'd already been educated. I had lots of factors in my, I didn't have massive trauma through my life or anything. But, a lot of our parents are vulnerable. They're neurodivergent themselves. They don't know how to navigate the system. They may have lacked, there's so many factors that just make it impossible. And they are just then in punitive measures punished for what? Really, for the fact that you're not changing the system to actually accommodate all learners instead of, and I think the disparity between what used to be like, okay, maybe a few used to fall by the wayside, but now the system is so different. I think the demands are so much. Do you know what I mean? I think before, people used to just almost, there'd only be a few on the side, but now I think the amount is just, you know.
And they'll have to pay attention when it reaches a critical mass, because you can't prosecute all the parents. Before we go any further, let's just pop your blog on screen. Where do people need to go if they want to read it?
So my blog is www.pdaparenting.com.
I'll do one more introduction. Right, there we go. Let's pop that on there.
You
got in first. At least you got in first with the domain name before anyone else did.
Yeah, definitely.
On the bright side.
Yeah.
I say that with tongue firmly in cheek. Question for you: If a child actually refuses to go to school, what options can the school offer? Can they send work out to be done at home? Can they allow the child to only go in for selected classes and do the rest at home? Or is it a case of deregistering them and home educating full time?
No, there's lots the school can be doing, like you've just described, all of those kind of things, flexible timetables they could be doing. I mean, but when I say flexible, not being very rigid on saying to the student they can only come in for, like, they've got to come in on this lesson and that lesson, because you're already imposing such strict measures. But you know, there can be ways the school could get funding. They could allow the child to have some online access. They could have reset days. You know, there's so much out there that they could do.
When you say funding, how to?
If every pupil has a certain amount of funding allocated anyway, but they can, if they've applied, say if the child's comes with an EHCP, or the school or the family have applied for an EHCP and they do manage to get through to that can often bring money to the table as well. So there are things that they can be doing. And also, you know, when a child is out of school for 15 days, and that doesn't have to be consecutively, if they're too anxious to attend school, then the local authority are responsible for putting alternative provision in place, which is suitable to age, aptitude and needs. Now, of course, that's not an automatic thing that happens. That's something that parents have to really hugely fight for, unless you've got a school that are so ahead of this and stuff. But anyway, and a long answer is there is so much more options that we can be doing. It doesn't.
And the parents can go and, in the nicest possible way, bang the table and say, "Look, this is what you know." Who's kind of, can't think of quite the right phrase, but in charge here? Who calls the shots? Is it the parents?
Well, no. I mean, accountable would be the local authority. It would be their responsibility, unless you've been electively home educated, and then it would be the parents' sole responsibility to provide all education and meet. Yeah,
I see. So not the school, the local authority.
But the school does have a responsibility to provide. So there'd have to be a certain amount of measures put into place to show, you know, what they are doing. And the thing is, until people really start researching, you know, the law and what actually, you know, what is available and what you can do, it's a minefield. I think that's the truth.
And a very frightening one as well, which is why, for the benefit of anyone that's watching or will watch this back, I'm asking all these questions and you're answering them brilliantly. Thank you. How easy is it to home educate GCSE if you've got no money for tutors or online classes? Is another question.
That would. It's doable, but you also have to then pay for the GCSE exams, and you'd have to pay for any provision that you're doing, you know, your resources and stuff. That would all be down to the parent. But what is also useful to know is actually you don't have to follow the curriculum as is. You know, you're not replicating school. So a lot of parents will, you know, they could follow like a very self-directed learning, or they could do qualifications in other equivalents, because the thing is with the school system is we're so geared towards, we must get our GCSEs to get to the next stage. And when you take away and you deconstruct it all, you go, actually, is that important? What can I do to follow this path? And it's
and that would be in the case if they were exclusively home educating them without any support from the school.
Yeah, but even say for now, in alternative education for my children, you know, GCSEs, it's not that they're not capable of GCSEs, but the actual task to go to an exam and go and follow that, and it's quite demanding. So how do we represent what they're learning and give them the skills? So it's more directing them into the right ways. There are so many options out there, you're just not aware. We're not always. I'm just learning parts of it now, and there's so much that you can do in terms of equivalent qualifications or narrowing down which way you want to go.
I mean, I think we could spend the rest of our time together just talking about some of the options that are available. Would that be all right with you?
Yeah.
What I was asking, what I was trying to get to, I didn't put that in the best way. My fault. You said there might be funding available. But you also said the parents, if they're homeschooling, have to pay for the GCSEs, even though they don't have to follow the curriculum. But it is a responsibility of the parents to pay for that. Is there any funding available for that?
If there would, if you have an EHCP and your child, so
what does that stand for?
It's an educational healthcare plan. So it's like a legal framework around what are the needs and what provision is needed for the child. You can still be home educated with one of those. Because it names your type of provision. So it could say, well, okay, I'm going to a mainstream school, I'm going to a specialist school. It could go to an alternative provision. You can see that how you name that is different. And if you have that named as alternative provision or home education, then it would be down to the local authority to provide that. So there are ways, and some children would stay on school roll without an EHCP, but the school would still enter them for their GCSEs, but they could be doing part of their learning at home. Do you know, there's so many different ways of doing things. It's just that we put the onus on, you've got to be in school, you've got to follow all these lessons, and then you need to take your exams. And sometimes children need different routes. I think that was clear as well during COVID. That really became apparent for a lot of families, that there were different ways to doing things than what we're told.
Well, we're in quite a narrow framework. We absolutely worship at the altar of academia, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's very clear to me, this was clear to me years ago, that not all children will respond to that. And so it just becomes like, do your best at school, and then good luck in the world afterwards. So there is so much more than academia, isn't there? Talk us through some of the options that I'll take it this is all on your blog as well, pdaparenting.com.
Yeah, it is. Well, mostly, I mean, I could say more my resources of what I have on my blog are not just, it's not completely only around the PDA profile. I mean, there is a lot of resources around what that is, but it wouldn't really matter if I'm talking about a PDA child or someone who's ADHD or autistic. It's actually, what do we need individually to support the family? So some of those ones will be around, how do you support learners in education? How can we make that look alternatively? It's kind of in like, give me the child that you're working with, and what am I going to do to adapt to the child that you're, rather than, because there'll often be a phrase like, well, I've worked with an autistic child, I know what I'm doing, but actually you've worked with one autistic child, and that's kind of the mindset we often get, and it's trying to get people around that to say, right, okay, what else can we do? So that's what I do, but I also do webinars and things. So I record webinars and try and talk parents and professionals. So I do a bit of a range of stuff, because then I can kind of make that difference to the family, to the child, by supporting the parent and the educator. I'm actually therefore helping the child. That's my goal anyway. And then lastly, I'll have books on it as well. So I've got one children's book on PDA, but a new one that's coming out next year on children that school refuse, which is, I don't really use that term, but I'll just do that as a simple, because it's called emotionally based school avoidance is the truth, but people see it as school refusal. So there's one on that, but because it's kind of looking at what are the alternative options, because I didn't want to just do a book about, okay, because if you're a parent and all you get told is they must be in school or you're going to be fined, or, and you're just put in this narrow place of, oh my God, services upon me and I can't get out of it. So the children's book is actually, even though it's talking to the child, it's actually talking to the adults around them to say there are alternatives. You just need to explore what they could possibly be.
And a very good starting point is obviously your blog, pdaparenting.com. So if anyone finds themselves in that situation, there is hope. That's what we're saying. Thanks to pioneers like you. I mean, thank you for blazing the trail for everybody else. It can't have been easy.
Well, I think, you know, going back to 2016, I was told like basically PDA didn't exist, and I had a 4-year-old that was being excluded out of school. And
I know, neither does dyslexia. I mean, that obviously doesn't exist either.
And you're just left in a position where, what can I do? And that's when I think I started writing. But there's so many other people doing it, you know, and I think we can only make a difference if there's a big collective voice. Do you know, it will always be a community of everybody coming together to keep pushing this, a different voice, really, a new narrative.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's these communities, apart from yours, is building. I mean, there must be quite a lot online of these communities if you search.
Yeah, they are. And do you know anyone who's neurodivergent in your own like group or family or friends?
Yes. Yes, not close family, but yes. And as I understand it more, I think maybe we all are a little bit. I think I'm ADHD, but it's a spectrum, isn't it? But not neurodivergent in the way that you mean it. No. I didn't really understand the term when I first heard it. Mm-hmm. But there again, if I'm not experiencing, it's hard to understand. And hell, what's normal anyway?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And
no two people are the same.
No, but I think when you start to see traits, particularly with ADHD, it can be very hard to like know whether that is actually, because as an adult, if we've gone through life, that's just us. So how would we know any different? Like, and that's
exactly.
Just,
so what sort of traits would people look for to be signposted in this direction, do you think?
It can depend really, because some people could be really hyper focused or not, you know, find difficulties in transitions, leaving something to start something new. It could be executive functioning. Actually, you know, I know that that's a big thing for me. Like if I've got a list of things, I just can't do it because there's too many things to do. So I need it broken up, or I need a deadline, a priority, like this is going to happen right this moment, and then I can action it. I know I'm, you know, another thing that could be, so I'm obviously going from my own experiences here, but like, you know, if it's a daytime thing, like today, I know that this is happening. I can't function for the rest of the day till I know that part's done, because it's like time paralysis. I can't do anything until I know it. You can only focus on one thing. But then sometimes on the opposite side, I could have like a zillion tabs going in my brain, and I'm working on so many things I can't actually focus on just one thing. And if I could then move on to the next thing, it'd be fine.
See, I can be like that. I've got a zillion. Just looking at my computer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 18 tabs open on my computer. There was that meme that went round, isn't it? My mind is like a computer. It's got 100 tabs open, and the one of them's playing music loudly, and I don't know which one. But it really is that. But I can be like that as well. I can, and then suddenly I think, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. No, I'm overwhelmed. And then when I get hit overwhelmed, I can't do anything. And that taken to an extreme can be burnout as well, can't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
And do you have decision paralysis where, you know, just making a decision should be so easy, but you can't there and then? It's just like, oh, I should do that or that. And then you've got too many decisions.
When stressed, I find it hard to make a decision. Unstressed, but things flow quite nicely. But when stressed, you know, when I'm in that
block,
and it's a block. But I guess that's the same for. I mean, nobody makes good decisions under stress, do they? But I suppose it's just stress. Mm-hmm. Stress affects people in different ways, of course.
Yeah. Empathy, like that's another thing as well. Like I know for me, I feel other people's pain as if it's my own, and I can't just shift from that emotion. If I've got something, you know, that's something. But then some people could think like it appears as if they don't have empathy, but maybe they might show it in a different way. They might tell, if you're going to try and tell them a story or something, they'll match you with another story, but that's actually their connection of showing empathy, but it looks different to other people. So there can be different, there's so many different ways of it, presenting, but also it's interesting as, a female presentation can often be very different, not completely. I'm not saying that it's one or the other, but more typical, you can see women can appear slightly different, very distracted, and quite often can lead to a lot of bouts of addiction and things like that, because, or that dopamine seeking can be.
Absolutely, yeah. And I can understand that men and women would be different because we are different and we do present things differently. It's as simple as that. Not better or worse, but different, without a doubt. Absolutely, and we need to allow for that. Well, look, thank you so much for being on. When you release your new book next year, keep in touch and pop back on the Midday show, and we'll do a mini launch for it on
that would be amazing. Thank you. Yeah, it's next June, so I'll have to be in touch. Thank you very much.
Plenty of time, but you know where to find me. Just hit me up on the socials. There's one more thing I was going to say to you, Oliver. Right, I know I've forgotten it. There we go. That's all my tabs open again. What was it to do? It was to do with dopamine and ADHD or something like that. No, it's gone. Never mind. What I did last night, I've got several projects on the go, and I've got one page for each in this book, and then all the subsets of it, because it's like when you do those spider maps, you've got to do that, and then there's that branching off that, and then 4 branches off there, and then 4 branches off that one. And how people work from those, I'll never know. Really.
It's a million projects that start, and it's a great idea, but then you don't follow that one through, and then your mind's gone on to somewhere else.
Because when I did the ADHD test online, and ironically I got distracted halfway through it, it was like, do you do this? I'm like, yes, no. Oh, shiny thing. So it really was like that. I'm like Dory in the but yeah, no, the ADHD test, and it was, do you start things and don't finish them? And I came in just under the ADHD threshold, but I still think I've got a bit of it. Anyway, thank you so much for being on. I'll send you the
nice
footage.
To meet you.
And you too, and good luck with all the work that you're doing. And thank you on behalf of everyone that watches this for the work that you're doing, because you've really blazed a trail and made it really easy, much easier for people that could find themselves in a seemingly impossible situation to know that there really are resources, and there is hope, and there are solutions, and community and support as well, which is brilliant.
That makes me really happy. So thank you for that. Really appreciate that.
I think that's the least we could say. Danielle Jata Hall, thank you. Is it Jata or Jata?
It's actually Yata, but I actually do say Jata sometimes because it's easier for people to spell after.
You've got a soft J like young Danielle Yata Hall. Okay. Danielle Yata Hall, lovely talking to you. I'll send you the footage of this later. Now, I'm mindful of your time. If you need to shut that tab down and go and do something else, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to bring our next guest on now, but you're very welcome to stick around and jump in the conversation anytime you like. Or if you've got to go, that's really cool as well.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
You're very welcome. Sophia Husbands, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Oh, hello! It's so nice to be back.
Well, it's lovely to have you back. I'm just gonna change the banner because lovely that you are. You are not PDA parenting.
Yeah.
Just gonna get rid of that. And there's so many banners here, and I'm just trying to get rid of it. Hold on, there it is. Let's put your website on screen first of all.
Yeah, I realised I should have just put www.sophiaworld, because for great news is I've updated it recently.
sophiaworld.com.
.co.uk. I love to get the .com. I have been watching that for years, and this is more than 10 years. Yeah, that's it. That's me.
sophiaworld.co.uk. Very warm welcome back to the show. Tell us what you've been up to.
Yes, so since I
apart from revamping your website.
Yeah, but apart from me revamping my website to bring it up to date, so people know what I've been up to, because it's all about what's happening in my world. So since I last, appeared on the show, I've been on holiday, which was really nice.
Where'd you go?
I went to Ibiza, and I also visited Formentera. I do love to island hop. Maybe because of my heritage. My parents come from the Caribbean, have this thing about wanting to go to different islands. But
brilliant.
yes,
Did you? I have to ask. Did you give it large in Ibiza? Did you go for the dance music, or was it the other side of the island?
yeah, I'm more like the relaxed, mellow person, as you probably could see from my rings and the stones.
You've been to the hippie market, haven't you?
And I've got this really beautiful heart, which drew my attention.
Did you get that from the hippie market in Ibiza?
Yeah, close by to the hippie market, and I did attend it on my last day, and I did a bit of the tryst, like the 1950s, sort of like dance in my wedge heels. So that was interesting to know that I can not only go down, Neil, but I could get back up, because that's what happens when you get to a certain age. Can you get back up? When you do go down, it's a question.
Yeah, you can get down with the kids, but not back up again.
Yeah, that's true. And what's been really exciting is I launched this AI powered tool which helps people with reinventions and life pivots. So that's one of the big juicy pieces.
Because this is what you're all about, isn't it? Life pivots and reinvention.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, just for the benefit of those listening,
yes.
What were you doing when you did your first pivot? And then at what point did the idea come, I can help other people pivot as well?
Yeah, so that's a good question to ask, Neil, because if I look back at my life, I'm not going to go back to year dot, before I came into this world.
I pivoted at 11 years old. I didn't go to the playground.
Yeah, or a bit like the story of the notorious ex-royal who talks about the soap commercial. I shouldn't be doing, but just trying to be humorous, everyone. Add a bit of humour into the afternoon. So what I noticed is with my career, I've done quite a few things. So I started off as an accounts professional years and years ago. And then I moved over to the Netherlands. So I used to live in Amsterdam, or what we sometimes nickname people who live over there, the Dam. So I lived very close to the red light district.
Yeah.
Then, you had an economic crash. Can you remember, Neil, in 2008?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then I came back to the UK the year after that. I retrained, I did teaching. And then I went back to finance, and then I was teaching part-time. I got really good reviews. And then, if I continue, in my different career, I've done different sorts of life pivots. And I think this is like a point I want to mention to a lot of people is sometimes we sort of like take for granted the different things we've done or changes. It doesn't have to be career. It could be, for example, like maybe moving from the town you were brought up in to another part of the UK, or moving to another country. So I was on this course a couple of months.
So we should give ourselves credit for
we don't give ourselves credit. We don't.
For the life path that we've been on, because these are, I mean, from one point of view, every experience in life is useful, even if it teaches you what you don't want, but we can either learn from it, or if we look back at things we've done previously in our career, it does relate some way into what we're doing now. One of my DJ students, she used to, because I teach people to DJ, she used to play the drums, and of course, sense of rhythm, which you need if you're DJing, of course.
Yeah.
So that's just one little example, and you wouldn't have thought it. You wouldn't have thought it at the time. It's only when you look back you think, actually,
it's true. It's true.
That dovetailed quite nicely, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it's true. That's the thing, we don't realise we do it. And some months ago, I was working with these people in AI, and then they were talking about, tools and things which we can use for every day, which is useful for ourselves. And then it kind of like came clear to me that in terms of the people I've worked with, so I've worked with different people from different walks of life. So I'll give you an example, Neil. So I worked with this lady who, I just give you one example. She's based in America. She's very good with art, making things beautiful. So I call her like a shabby chic type of lady, whereby, like when people throw away furniture, like how we see sofas on the street sometimes, which people might throw away. And you think, hold on a minute, this is still good wooden structure. I could use this. So she's very good at repurposing. So I helped her in a UA.
Oh yeah, what do they call it? Upcycling.
Yeah,
That's
upcycling. Yeah, that's the thing. Have you noticed, Neil? We're always coming up with different terms all the time. For the same thing. It's like, for example, one time I was interviewed.
I know. It's all a bit poncy at times.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's true, because I remember once. This might make you laugh, or some viewers. I remember once I was interviewed by Stylist magazine about the term "crite critting," and I had to go and do research. I don't know if that happens to you. You have to Google crite critting. Yeah, you have a question mark. What is this? So I googled it. So really, what crite critting means? It means that, for example, that you're in a job, maybe you don't like the job, or maybe you're frustrated or think you're not being noticed, and then you decide, I'm going to just do the bare minimum, just do what I need to do, and then that's it. That's it in a nutshell. And now it has the term crite critting. So the point I tried to make is, they always try to upcycle terms.
Well, they do. We upcycle words as well, don't we? And I'm sure that person's line manager wouldn't have used that exact term. Probably used something a little bit more robust, shall we say?
Yeah, no, not very clever. I'm sure they did it anonymously, or did some TikTok account where they're called roller skater girl, something like that. Not showing my face, but to go on, I was I was working with these AI developers, and then I thought, one of the challenges I find with people, and if we think about what's happening in the world today with the economic, political, I'm not going to go too much into political today, but we're globally, inflation, it's getting more expensive to live, and you get people who are thinking, okay, I want to make extra income, or maybe I want to downsize or live life differently. So this is where my reinvention navigator came into play. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool, especially since we've got all this technology, instead of people having to go to someone or maybe speak to a friend. Friends are really good, people who might know you because they can see where your sweet spot is, what your skills are. But what's so nice and wonderful, one of the benefits of AI, is that you can make things more personalized. So, for example, for listeners out there, I like to ask a question. How many of you, for example, if you're used to or comfortable using ChatGPT, have gone into ChatGPT to ask a question to do with a relationship? So it might be a case you might be dating on a dating app, or you had to fall it out with someone close to you, and you think,
I've heard people say ChatGPT is as good as the therapist.
Yeah. I suppose it can be, and it's interesting. I was talking to a psychotherapist about this yesterday. I think it all comes down to having a clear boundaries, like it is with everything in life, knowing the distinction between reality and virtual reality. I think that's the key component there. It can be useful because sometimes we do want to talk things out loud, or say, for example, Neil, with your partner, not to intrude, you had some sort of disagreement. Of course, when you get to know someone for years, you know how each other works. You might have a different sorts of communication style, but wouldn't it be helpful sometimes to have that third person? You don't have to give away sensitive details. So this is where I will always tell people in terms of using AI, is that you could desensitize information. So don't give specifics. You'd have to give your age, but you could just, put your scenario in and then ask questions. This is just a tip to be safe online, just one tip, in terms of information you feed into AI. But the premise is, going back to Reinvention Navigator, the tool I created, the purpose is that it asks certain questions. So I programmed it a certain way. So it's looking at things from a career coach, looking at factors to do with AI, because we can't ignore it, that some tools or way we do things is being replaced, by AI. It could be useful, but of course we do need human beings. So talking about my travel scenario recently, I arrived at the airport and I was thinking, and they had this long queue, And I was thinking that I hope I get to the counter where it's the person and you'd have to go to the machine. And the amount of people I saw in front of me who then had to call the person a human being. So the point
I think you've made a really good point. I think the virtual world is useful to use in the real world.
Yes.
But you won't want to live entirely in a
Yes.
virtual world. I mean, I've seen virtual girlfriends on Facebook advertising
wow.
virtual girlfriends, and she always does what you ask her to do, and she never answers back. And I'm like, really, seriously, that is sad. Not that I downloaded it, of course, not even for research purposes. No, I didn't.
I like the way you said it. Quick say, not for research purposes.
Research purposes only. And even she dumped me. No. I've actually signed up to an AI course. It's like they teach you sort of 15 minutes a day, because it was a very good little advert on Facebook. It said, you know, AI is one of the most amazing things ever invented, and you're still asking how to write emails. Seriously. So I don't think we've even scratched the surface yet, and clearly this conversation bears that out, because you've got a whole tool on how to, just a minor detail of pivoting your whole life, you know.
And that's
but it can be really useful. It is like that third person, that friend, to hold the opinion, and you know, be the sounding board is what I'm trying to say.
That's the purpose of my tool. And what I noticed, so I do a lot of research online. It's useful, and I think it's good, you know, to get diverse opinions too as well. I think that's important, because otherwise we don't want to end up in our own echo chamber with yes men or the nodding dog, you know, like that advert from years ago. I don't know if it still goes round.
Was it Cromwell Insurance? What was his name? The nodding dog.
The nodding dog. I always say that, the nodding dog. We don't want that at all. So that's why it's good to get diverse opinions. So when I've been designing this, I've been factoring that in. I've been looking at these YouTube social media gurus who say how to make £1,000 or how to get a sideline. Some are good. It's like with everything, you're always going to get good, mediocre, and bad. So I factor this in because I want people to get practical advice. I don't want wishy-washy type of advice where it's
and the thing is, there's so many so-called opportunities online, and I think in the internet world they call it bright shiny object syndrome. There's always the new bright shiny distractible shiny thing, you know. And some are, and you're right, some are good and some are an absolute waste of time. And knowing the difference, that's the real skill, isn't it? Because you're going to put your own time and energy into it. I mean, I remember in the early days of internet marketing, you'd hear these stories of people sitting there virtually ignoring their families, going through all these training courses and all these opportunities and promises, and years later, 6 years later, they've still made a big fat zero, you know. Yes,
that's true. That's what I would say to people, is always do your due diligence. But it's interesting the point you mentioned there, Neil, about the psychology, because I've also built that into my app too as well, to have a bit of cognitive, because I've always been big in terms of well-being, mental health.
Fantastic.
And I'm fortunate I do have contacts of people on my network who are qualified, you know, professionals, you know, so I could, you know, go to them and ask them, what do you think about this if I'm not sure? So what, in terms of mental well-being, it's more to do with looking at people's mindset. So with one person who I tested, so you always have to test these new systems, and even with this tool which I created, even today, I was in the back end of it, you know, doing tweaks. So I'll give you a scenario. So it's a lady, Natalie. Let's say her name's Natalie. She's based in the USA. She has health issues and she wants to come back to the UK because Natalie is originally from the UK. And then she was talking about how, you know, she has health issues, you know, limited funds. And then what I witnessed with my tool is it came up with suggestions of how it could, you know, how you could adapt your situation. Maybe, for example, you could do this, you know, share stories. And this character, Natalie, she's very good with art. So it came up with a suggestion that maybe what you can do, you know, in the meantime, whilst you know, saving up that money to come back to UK, Natalie, maybe you could draw some sketches. And the key thing about this is art is something which is important to Natalie. You know, she's a very good artist, and what the AI, you know, my navigator was suggesting is that she can maybe draw some sketches, post it online, share it into stories, share a journey with people, say, look, I want to come back to UK. And I thought, isn't that a really clever, you know, type of, you know, answer?
Oh, that's very creative.
So do you see what I mean? So it's looking at the emotional side too as well, not come up with these plans, say do this. So that's what's, you know, one of the cool elements of the tool I've created is that it's adding a little bit of the emotional, you know, empathy, which I've added into this tool. Because think about it, when we go for a life change, like I give another scenario.
You've got to be gentle with yourself through a life
you have to be gentle. You have to be kind to yourself when you're pivoting change.
Because without mental well-being, we have nothing. You know, that's got to be front and center, first and foremost. We talk a lot about, you know, mental health on this show.
Yes.
And you know, preserving and having as much agency over our own mental health as we can is fantastically important.
Yes, I agree with you.
And to teach that we can. You know what I mean?
We can. And with mental well-being, it's like it's not like a trend or fad. Because I know now people are talking more about it in recent years. Because think about the term burnout. Remember maybe 20 years ago, was there a term like burnout?
It didn't even used to exist.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't, because people never used to think about it. But you are right. Mental health, mental well-being is so important. So something which we always have to continuously practice, even with myself. Because when I was on holiday, what I enjoyed about this one, I'm not saying that I have a bad time when I travel, because I love traveling, Neil, as you probably know. I'm like the travel person. That's why I get people ask me questions about it. But
I had an inkling of it, shall we say?
Yeah, you know. But what was great about this time, you know, and I said this in my diary of the startup, you know, chapter, which everyone could all sign up to, which I'm, you know, going to talk about, you know, always plugging about, is it was great to go on this trip and not do anything at all. And what I mean by that is I did take my laptop. I always take my laptop everywhere, you know, when I'm traveling. And if you look at my usage, I'm typically a high usage person, because, you know, I'm developing things, doing research. So I'm a high user. It probably went down by probably 98%. Because I only opened it in the morning. It might be a question like, what's the weather going to be like in Ibiza today? I know you're probably laughing, thinking the time of year when it's warm most of the time, and I escaped that rain. I don't know if you heard about the floods recently in Ibiza, which occurred recently. Yeah, it was like a flash, you know, sort of flood. But the point I was making, it was so nice not to, you know, to switch off and not be, you know, in that mode all the time, the work mode. And it was me having to check into myself and ask myself a question. I'm on holiday. If I don't do certain thing, is the world, you know, is things gonna, you know, go wrong? And
did you find that easy to do?
Usually I would find it a bit of a struggle, because I've done it before when I've even worked on projects abroad, and then I'm answering questions going back to the UK, or even being interviewed, you know, by, you know, a journalist, for example. I'm thinking about a time when I was in Amsterdam. So sometimes I have found it a bit hard, but I think it's all to do with me becoming more stricter in terms of my boundaries. And I'm in that sort of like phase of my life when I want to slow down, and I've seen effects of what happens when you get stressed. So it's happened to me where I've, you know, stress has, you know, manifested in, you know, like ill health for me. So that's why, and that's why I want to like warn people, you know, not to let, you know, work get to you in a certain way that affects your own physical being, because your mind and your body is so connected. And with me, I'm very in tune with it. And one of my things, you know, which I'm happy to discuss, because at the end of the day, you know, we're just humans out there, is that I'm always more aware these days in terms of managing my stress levels. Because the thing about stress is good, because we need it in terms of survival, you know, in terms of how we are made up, you know, going back to times in flight and fleet, we might be running from the lion, or we might.
But fight or flight was meant to be used for short bursts only.
Yeah, short purpose.
And we needed that burst of cortisol if the lion was chasing us. But the problem is now, and then in running away from the lion, it will be worked out the body. But now we get stressed with the boss or the kids, and you can't run away, so it's got nowhere to go. Then it builds
Yeah.
up, and then the problems start. That's
Yes.
how I understood it.
Yes, that's true, Neil. You're correct what you're saying. That's true. So I think what's happened is people got into a habit. And when you think about it, life has changed so much. So if I think about when I was a child and, you know, I hear these reports and researches, we got like, yes, life is easy in some ways. So we don't have to run to go and hunt our food. So I've got a friend whose grandfather, so he's from Finland, used to, on his way home from work, maybe we'll hunt maybe a deer, which would be used, because I think that's like a food, you know, a food thing to do in Finland, where they have deer meat they do eat with potatoes. You know, for the listeners, if you're wondering, you know where I'm going, you know how I came up with this, it's true, but in terms of that's the sort of food they eat. But the point I'm making is the grandfather would hunt for food on his way back from home. So lifestyle's a bit different, you know. Some
just a tad. It's a bit different from popping into Tesco's.
Yeah, for Tesco. So you don't have to run to go and hunt your food. I could just go and pick up salmon.
Not generally, I find. No, not generally.
Yeah. You could just. So what I'm trying to say is we live more in an age of convenience.
It's come with the dark side, though. It's come with the downside, that it hasn't made everything better. We've made things more efficient.
Yes.
But it's just in a sense. But I think the problem is everything's sped up.
Yes.
Including us, and that constant nose against the grindstone, going at speed all the time, and not having a time for downtime. It's not good for us. It really isn't.
Yes,
that's why. And you said the word. You said boundaries. You've got personal boundaries, which we all need, of course, and we all need to know what our yes is and what our no is, and you know, and when we find that sweet spot, that's when we've got much more, paradoxically perhaps, to contribute to the world around us, like you have with your brilliant invention, which is available on your website, I take it.
Yes, it is available. So I've got a special tab, just click Reinvention Navigator and it takes you to the page, talks about it, and soon I'm going to be popping up some more videos showing, you know, it in progress, so people get a real feel in terms of how it works. So the whole idea is to have like that companion next to you. So it doesn't have to be about career. It could be even about saying, I want to downsize, or I want to relocate, because different changes could be, for example, like you're in a long-term relationship and it ended. Let's say, for example, you're married to someone and then, you know, unexpectedly the relationship ends for whatever reason. And then you're in a life pivot, aren't you? That's like a change you're going through. And of course, there'll be a mental element there, and where you have to take some time out, be gentle to yourself, a theme which we're talking about today, Neil, you know, like be easy on ourselves. And tips in terms of boundaries, I always say to people in terms of self-care is, you know, just take things step. Don't feel like you need to rush, because yes, I know how it's like with mobile phones. You get alerts all the time where people might want you to respond, but it's okay not to respond or respond later, because it's happened.
Make haste slowly is a nice phrase.
Yeah, because it's happened to me, Neil, where I've had a message from someone and then they get upset if I don't respond within 30 minutes. And I'm thinking it's...
I have people that get upset if I don't respond in 30 seconds. Seriously. And I have to say to people, look, there's so many channels of communication, and it's not personal, but I've got email, I've got Instagram, there's Facebook Messenger, the odd carrier pigeon here and there. You know, I can't be on all the time. You know, and it's really not personal, but people take it very personally. I need an answer now.
It's true, and the thing is, you don't want to like rush your response. So, for example, with me, someone might ask me a question: can you attend X event next week? So this happened to me on Sunday night. Someone asked if I wanted to see this preview of this film happening in London with this guy who she interviewed on their Sunday show, one of my friends. And then, you can't, like, sometimes it might just be a case you want to check your availability, because I don't want to say yes to something and then say, sorry, I can't. So, you know, there's always a reason why people don't respond. And I think it's a case about how sometimes people take things personally too as well. That's another point.
People take things very, very personally if you don't respond to it. And it really isn't. I've had to have some really serious conversations with people that say, look, I'm not being rude and it's not personal, but this isn't going to change. Sorry. You know, take me or leave me, you know. So they left. No. Anyway, Sophia, it's been lovely to see you again.
Yes.
And good luck with everything that you do. Keep in touch. Pop back on sometime.
Yes, I will.
Let us know how the reinvention tool, the AI reinvention I've forgotten the name of it. Sorry.
Navigator.
AI.
Don't worry, it's happened to me sometimes. I always remember the reinvention part. Everyone.
AI reinvention navigator.
Yeah, just call it a reinvention navigator, because then that is it's like helping you to navigate, and reinvention is to do with all the different sorts of changes we have. So
yes, indeed.
With this, I know this will help, many people, and helping them to get ideas too as well, because sometimes we brainstorm and then someone, like a neutral person comes in and goes, how about this? So it's really cool.
Yes. I think it's a great tool, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you for bringing it to the world, and good luck with everything. Keep in touch, and hopefully we'll see you again. And I'll send you the footage of this if you want to use it for any shameless marketing purposes. You're very welcome.
Yes, yeah. I love bragging and doing shameless marketing. You have to, don't you, these days, to put yourself out there? Because we're in that world.
I would be offended if you didn't.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't want to offend you.
Brag away. Brag from the rooftops. So, Sophia, it's been lovely talking to you again. Thank you.
Thank you. It's lovely to be on the show.
Lovely to have you back. Good afternoon. SophiaWorld.com if you'd like to check that out. I think Russ said he wasn't going to be here Friday, but Phil will. King of the Cravat, and Jonathan Baz, theatre critic, and Chantal Ricard, the screen queen, on our showbizy focused midday show on Friday. Thanks for tuning in. I hope it's been interesting. If you're watching on the replay and you got some valuable information, and we kind of packaged it all up tonight, sorting out the problems today, sorting out the problems with the kids, and then reinventing yourself at the same time. We deliver on the midday show. We deliver. And if you're watching it on replay or even live and it's helped you in some way, I'm absolutely delighted. I'm Neil Long. A very good afternoon to you. And now I'm going to go and have lunch. Take care. Good afternoon.